The hum of the Kepler Station Academy Xenobiology lecture hall was a familiar thrum against Kaelen Vance's seat. Around him, a kaleidoscope of alien students, from the multi-limbed Vraxian to the shimmering-skinned Citation, leaned forward in anticipation. On the central holographic display, Professor Xylos, a Vraxian with 3 sets of articulate mandibles, gestured enthusiastically. And so we come to the apex predator of Titan 7. His voice buzzed with academic zeal, the umbral stalker, or as it's commonly known, the Shadow Maw. Kaelen's gaze, however, was fixed not on the professor, but on the massive, sleek form pacing behind the shimmering containment field at the back of the lecture stage. The umbral stalker was magnificent, a creature of midnight fur and coiled muscle, its crimson eyes glowing with an ancient, untamed intelligence. It moved with a restless energy that hinted at contained power, a subtle unease that Kaelen, unlike most, seemed to feel acutely. Professor Xylos continued, oblivious, detailing the stalker's incredible senses and pack-hunting strategies. Its olfactory system can detect fear pheromones from a kilometer away, and its sonic screeches disorient prey, allowing the pack to coordinate a swift, brutal takedown. He clicked a display, showing skeletal diagrams. But Kaelen barely registered the words. The stalker's pacing had become more erratic. Its powerful tail, tipped with a bladed barb, twitched rhythmically, thudding softly against the reinforced floor. Its crimson eyes swept the tiered seating, lingering for a moment on Kaelen, then moving on. Around them, several alien students shifted uncomfortably, their varied sensory organs likely picking up on the creature's growing agitation. Kaelen felt a prickle of something ancient, something that resonated with the beast's disquiet. This wasn't just a contained specimen, it was a living, breathing force, and it was becoming stressed. A flicker of memory, sepia-toned and distant, superimposed itself over the brightly lit lecture hall. He was younger, perhaps 10, kneeling in the tall grass of his family's reclamation plot on Earth. Before him, a German shepherd, powerful and restless, whined softly, ears twitching. She's not angry, just confused, he'd thought then, reading the subtle shift in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. She needs to know what to do. He'd held out a steady hand, spoken in a low, even tone, and watched as the dog's anxiety melted into a quiet submission. That was the language of predators, he realized, a primal echo that transcended species. The umbral stalker's current behavior wasn't aggression, not truly. It was a deep-seated confusion, a desperate need for a pack leader in an unfamiliar, unsettling environment. It was lost, and its power was becoming dangerous. The sudden, sharp crack of failing metal ripped Kaelen from his thoughts. The containment field, a shimmering barrier of energy, flickered violently, spitting electrical sparks. A collective gasp rippled through the hall. Professor Xylos choked mid-sentence, his mandibles snapping shut. Backup systems, meant to kick in instantly, stuttered, then died, plunging the stalker's cage into an ominous darkness. A guttural snarl, deep and resonant, vibrated through the floor. Then, with a sound like tearing fabric, the reinforced cage door buckled inward, twisted metal groaning under the umbral stalker's unseen, powerful claws. Chaos was about to be unleashed. Panic erupted. A cacophony of alien cries filled the air as students scrambled. A Citation student, all shimmering scales, phased partially through a wall in its haste to escape. A Vraxian student scuttled on all 6 limbs towards the nearest emergency exit, antennae quivering. Professor Xylos, his academic composure shattered, fumbled for his comm unit, his frantic calls for security echoing through the pandemonium as he backed towards the faculty exit. Elara Rix, Kaelen's human companion, clutched her head, her breath coming in ragged gasps. But Kaelen remained seated, his eyes fixed on the mangled cage. He wasn't frozen in fear, he was watching, observing, his mind racing with a different kind of calculation. From the darkness of its broken cage, the umbral stalker emerged. It moved with a fluid, terrifying grace, larger than Kaelen remembered, its midnight fur sleek and menacing in the emergency lights that now pulsed red and blue across the hall. Its massive head swiveled slowly, crimson eyes sweeping the dwindling crowd of panicking students. Its lips were pulled back, revealing teeth like polished obsidian daggers, but Kaelen noticed its posture. Though formidable, It wasn't overtly aggressive. It was assessing, confused by the sudden freedom and the overwhelming fear. "Kaelen, we need to go now," Ilara whispered, her voice tight with terror, tugging desperately at his arm. But Kaelen barely registered her plea. His gaze locked on the creature, trying to read the nuances of its predatory form. "It's not hunting," Kaelen stated quietly, his voice surprisingly calm amidst the fading sounds of distant alarms and fleeing students. Ilara stared at him, bewildered, her wide eyes reflecting pure terror. "What are you talking about? It's a shadow maw," she hissed, trying again to pull him up. Kaelen gently but firmly held her in place. "Look at its body language, Ilara. See how its ears are slightly flattened, not erect? The way its tail isn't whipping, but twitching in short, uncertain movements? It's confused, disoriented. This isn't the posture of a predator stalking prey. It's the posture of an animal that's lost, trying to re-establish its territory, its pack." He remembered his childhood, the primal understanding that had always been an innate part of him. This creature wasn't looking for a meal, it was looking for a leader. As the last few students scrambled out, the lecture hall became eerily quiet, save for the distant wail of alarms. The umbral stalker's attention, no longer diffused by a panicking crowd, shifted. Its crimson eyes, intelligent and ancient, fixed directly on Kaelen and Ilara. It took a slow, deliberate step towards them, then another. Its massive claws clicked softly on the synthetic flooring, each sound a hammer blow to Ilara's racing heart. Ilara started to rise, a whimper catching in her throat, but Kaelen's hand on her arm was firm. "Stay still," he murmured, his voice low and steady. "Running triggers chase instincts. We need to present ourselves as something else." He knew the danger was immense, but the primal echo within him told him he had to stand his ground. A flicker of raw, ancestral fear, cold and sharp, clawed at Kaelen's gut. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, to become small, to disappear. This was the fear of the primeval human, standing before a creature that could rip him apart in a single, effortless motion. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. But then, another instinct surged forward, stronger, older. Humanity hadn't survived by always fleeing. They had survived by outthinking, by adapting, by too dominating douse. They were persistent, intelligent predators in their own right, even if the galaxy had forgotten that truth. This wasn't just about survival. It was about defining himself, defining his species. He met the stalker's gaze, pushing down the primal urge to submit. This was a test of will, a challenge, not just instinct. The umbral stalker was terrifyingly close now, its musky alien scent filling Kaelen's nostrils. Its massive head, rippling with muscle, was level with his own, its breath a warm, almost imperceptible current against his face. Ilara, beside him, was rigid with terror, her breath hitched. Kaelen felt the sheer, overwhelming power emanating from the creature, the raw force of an apex predator. He did not flinch. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted his chin, his gaze unwavering, and looked directly into the creature's intelligent, crimson eyes. He didn't blink. He didn't try to appear aggressive, nor did he cower. He simply held its gaze, projecting a quiet, unyielding strength, a profound, silent challenge and recognition. The lecture hall vanished. There was only Kaelen, the stalker, and the unspoken language passing between them, predator to predator. A moment stretched, an eternity held captive in the stalker's crimson gaze. Then, impossibly, something shifted. The subtle tension in the creature's shoulders melted away. Its ears, previously laid back in uncertainty, relaxed, flicking forward. The fur along its spine, which had been bristling, settled. A low rumble, not a growl, but something softer, almost a sigh, vibrated in its chest. Then, with a grace that belied its immense size, the umbral stalker lowered itself to the ground. It laid its massive head on its paws, exposing its throat, its belly partially visible, a posture of absolute unquestioning submission. It looked up at Kaelen, its crimson eyes now filled not with confusion or threat, but with a deep, primal respect. Ilara let out a choked gasp, her jaw hanging open in utter disbelief. Kaelen merely offered a small, knowing smile. "Predators recognize other predators," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "And sometimes they recognize a worthy pack leader." The stunned silence was shattered by the screech of heavy doors bursting open. A squad of Kepler Station security forces, weapons drawn and energy shields deployed, stormed into the hall. Their leader, a grizzled Centauri, froze mid-stride, his multifaceted eyes wide with disbelief. Behind them, Professor Xylos, his mandibles quivering, crept closer, trembling, with a mix of excitement and terror. The security team, trained to neutralize the galaxy's most dangerous threats, found themselves staring at the feared umbral stalker, the shadow maw of Titan 7, lying docile and submissive at the feet of a human student. Their weapons, designed for maximum force, seemed absurdly out of place. Unprecedented, impossible. Professor Xylos gasped, his voice a reedy whisper. "Shadow maws they never submit." The security team, utterly bewildered, struggled to process the scene unfolding before them. Professor Xylos, recovering from his initial shock, cautiously approached, his gaze darting between Kaelen and the massive, calm predator. "Student Vance." "What? How did you do that?" he stammered, his scientific curiosity overriding his lingering fear. Kaelen met his gaze, a calm strength in his own eyes. "Humans, Professor, have a long history. For millennia, we survived on a planet filled with apex predators. Often by becoming one ourselves, we learned to read their language, to understand dominance and submission, to project our will. It's a primal understanding, buried deep in our ancestral memory." He looked down at the stalker, whose eyes remained fixed on him. "Perhaps," Kaelen continued, "they've never met anything they considered a worthy pack leader before, something that understood their instincts and showed no fear." Professor Xylos's mandibles clicked, a sound of profound intellectual awe. The implications were staggering, a fundamental redefinition of humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy. Within minutes, the story had spread like wildfire. Holographic news feeds across Kepler Station and beyond broadcast the astonishing footage. Kaelen and Ilara watched in a comms room as various alien species reacted with a mix of awe, fear, and utter confusion. A Vraxian news anchor, usually stoic, stammered through a report, showing the umbral stalker's submission on a loop. A citation diplomat, known for their species' intellectual arrogance, was shown looking utterly bewildered. "You just redefined interspecies relations for the entire galaxy, Kaelen," Ilara whispered, her voice still laced with disbelief, but now also a dawning pride. She looked at him, then at the holographic reports. "They always saw us as fragile. Clever, maybe, but fragile. Now," Kaelen nodded, understanding, "the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again." Later, as the containment team, moving with extreme caution, guided the now completely docile umbral stalker down the long corridor outside the lecture hall, Kaelen watched. The creature, secured but calm, paused. It turned its massive head, its crimson eyes seeking Kaelen out amidst the small group of onlookers. For a long moment, their gazes locked. It was a look of deep recognition, of mutual respect, predator to predator, alpha to alpha. No words were needed. Kaelen understood then, with a profound certainty, that this single, impossible act had fundamentally reshaped humanity's perception in the galaxy. No longer merely curious newcomers, they were now recognized for what they truly were, an apex species, capable of commanding even the most untamed forces. A new chapter had begun.